Okay, so last week everyone said they would like us to begin class with a prayer, similar way we end class. And so another one of the prayers that we use in our weekly 12 blessing services is the prayer for the spiritual workers. Both the prayers, prayer for spiritual workers and New Lord's Prayer, are available from the Eighth Theory Society, as well as several other powerful prayers. So I'm just going to put it up so you guys can read it over. I believe this will be the first time we'll perform this prayer in this setting. Take a few minutes to look it over and then read it over, and then we'll recite it as a group as soon as more people come in. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up our class, open discussion with the prayer for spiritual workers. Prayer for spiritual workers. Almighty God, I bless all those who, because of their limitations, would smite me. Almighty God, I bless all those who, because of their weakness, would not heed me. Almighty God, I bless all those who, because of their ignorance, would defile you through me. And I ask, Almighty God, O wondrous power, that your strength may be given to me now, so that I might be fortified by this, so that I might go forward bravely into the world, and despite perception, send forth my love of thee throughout all races of man. Almighty God, give me the power and strength to rise above my karmic weakness, the deficiencies in the pattern of my evolution, so that I might evolve and become stronger, I, and even stronger, in thy everlasting light. O God, thy will be done. All right, and that is the prayer for spiritual workers. So, welcome everyone. Good afternoon. I hope you're all doing well. So today's class is an open discussion, so feel free to ask any questions that you may have, either in the chat. If you're joining us on YouTube, you can ask your questions in the chat, or if you're joining us via Zoom, you can use the raise hand feature, or you can even post your question in the chat. We'll go ahead and get that answered for you. And then in the second half of the class, we will continue our study of the Karmic framework of creation diagrams. Today we're on page 3, but in previous classes we looked at page 1 here with a summary diagram of the karmic framework of creation. And then we went into the basic laws of karma, describing what karma is and what it encompasses, and the different types of intention and how that relates to karma. Today, we will go into the karmic energies of the auric body, and I'm actually pretty excited to go into this one because a lot of questions are generated or have been generated on this topic, this particular topic in the past. And here we begin to examine the direct effects of our karma on our person, on our entire auric unit. We'll look at some skaras, what those are, and get a better idea of exactly how they affect us and the different types of samskaras. We may go into the impurities. Yes, we do. Okay, so in the next page, we go into some of the impurities and go into more depth about it. We may even be able to cover it today. So it depends on how much we get through. So are there any questions? Good morning, Zai. Good morning, Lim. Good morning, Lady T. Good morning, everyone. Are there any questions so far?
Dwayne, can you hear me?
Powering on. Welcome.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, my microphone speaker was having problems.
I can hear you. I can't see you, but I can hear you.
I'm here. Working on this.
Okay, Jack, I see your hand is raised. Go ahead and ask your question.
So, Ethereus, can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay?
It's staticky. It's coming in and out.
Is it? Oh, okay.
It's better now.
Let me try. Better now. Okay. I was just wondering because this morning in the Ethereus Society service that I listened to online, they played an extract from Dr. King, where he talks about the Mother Earth was open to attack from various entities because of our karmic pattern. And I guess I'd never heard it. Obviously, we talk about karma all the time, and I just never heard it put that way that, because of the people you're traveling with, you're open to attack because of their karmic patterns. And I just wondered that applies to them. What applies to the macro must apply to the micro. So does that also, why people have such terrible luck, or just is that karmically they're allowed to receive that sort of? And so if you're traveling with them in the same car and it's all this balance of karma, is it being weighed up constantly? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, I mean, the whole science of predetermining your actions. Remember I talked about that?
Yeah.
That's based on creating the right karmic pattern. So what we need to do, because when we come into the orbit or surrounding of certain people, it changes our karmic pattern. And when we befriend them, when we accept their ideals or begin to sway more to them or become a part of their friendship, we begin to take on part of their karma, they take on part of our karma. So that's why you have to discriminate in your actions, and you have to say what you will do, what you will not do. You have to set a certain standard for your life in order to achieve the things that you want to achieve in life. And that's not scorning their pathway, it's just focusing on your pathway. You understand?
So what happens if you enter in that relationship for service? So for example, the Mother Earth is serving us and she has very, very good karma, but she's still, because of the quantity of our negative karma. But if you go to a group and you serve them, but you have to enter into a bad area, is there still that karmic transaction?
Well, the Mother Earth she took on the karma of mankind in a sense. She took on trillions of life forms. including insects, all the bacteria and microbacteria that we need in order to exist. The animal kingdom. She took on a lot of these stuff. There was a huge metamorphosis that had to happen here on Earth to allow mankind to come to Earth. When you read the accounts of this, is although it's in parables and it's they couldn't be very direct to us, but you can, once you read it in a mystic way and understand it in a mystic way, you can see the tremendous science and tremendous undertaking to take on a race of people that had just destroyed a planet. And here they came with this strange comic pattern that was strange to the whole galaxy. And it was almost entities from all over the galaxy ascended here in this solar system to guide and help the Mother Earth in her decision. So when you go back and look at it and look at all the different stories that's been told through all the different races, it all line up with the description of Meldak and the introduction of life forms, these strange basic life forms here on Earth. Which is different from all the other planets because we live and exist on the gross physical planes and the distorted astral planes, when the other planets have risen above these realms of existence. You know, in the other planes, these realms of existence are like the blood vessels of that planet. And not having living organisms playing inside the this to allow a free flow of operation. Only the devic forces are there on the astral and gross planes of existence on the other planets. But on this planet, we exist and we are disturbing and distorting and causing total chaos. That's the big difference. But when you go and read, if you go and read the ancient teachings, and some of them are English, I mean, Madame Blavatsky wrote a lot of it in English. Although it's not the best English, but it's direct, it's to the point, you need a dictionary to read it. Then she had a lot of her disciples or students come and talk about it. Dr. King gave information, very short, but very clear, you know, because let's say you heard of Seneca Mara, right? Yeah. Okay, now, when you go back to the Theosophical and the Hindu and the Buddhist teachings, they talk about, well, Seneca Mara, he was a Lord of Flame, he came from Venus and he took up residence on in the city of Shambhala. Well, Dr. King comes and he talks about this, but the way he talks about it, the way Dr. George King talks about it, he comes in and he say, yes, Seneca Mara came. He came in his full aspect. The city was built for him. And then when he came into the city, he came in his full aspect. And that made sense. It made more sense than what anybody else had said, in a sense for us to understand. Because they would talk about Seneca Mara living in 6 different bodies, and then the bodies were baby bodies, adult bodies. They had all this stuff going on. But when you talk about him coming in his full aspect and the city taking shape and coming alive, and the karmic pressure put on the physical and subtle, the physical, etheric, and astral planes at that point, with the Lord of Flame coming in its full aspect, what it essentially did, it held up karma, the negative karma of mankind. It held it up for 18 million some years until he left. And then, of course, the Lord Buddha took his place in 1956 and still holding up that negative karma, but the karma has been accelerated as of 1964. So at the primary initiation of Earth. So when you go and look at this stuff and look at it seriously, say, it makes sense. So yes, I mean, the Earth took on a lot of negative karma. Mankind had a lot of negative karma. Negative karma was held up by these great cosmic beings, as in the teachings it said that we live by the grace of the masters. That's what it meant. We live by the grace of the masters, because when Seneca Mara came here, he came here with 48 other cosmic masters, and they positioned themselves within the city of Shambhala and within the world in order to help balance the negative come out and allow mankind to move forward with their development.
So would you say the Christian creationists, especially in America, are they in some, even though they don't have the whole picture, are they in a way right then about them?
Who, the Christian society?
The creationists in particular.
Creationists? What do you mean by that?
The creationists in America, they kind of say that the world was built in 10 days and take it all literally.
No, I wouldn't say that. That's not so. I mean, the Earth has been here, from what we understand, the Earth, from what the mystics say, the Earth have a 6 billion year lifespan.
Right.
And it's in its third incarnation from the sun. And it's halfway through that third incarnation from the sun. We essentially have 3,000 or 3,000 million years or 3 billion years left, a little short of 3 billion years left before this Earth finished this cycle and start on another cycle. So that's what we believe. And but the Earth before mankind, you had the Adamic man, who was far more advanced than the man here on Earth, and they had to leave in order to allow us to come to take up residence here. So, but no, it wasn't done. I don't think it was done in 5 days or 10 days. Although
no, I meant what I meant more was that you know, the Senate command created our bodies, and
yeah, but that took hundreds. That took hundreds. That took thousands of years.
Right.
In fact, they say that most of mankind lived on the lower astral realms for over 100,000 years. In order to allow, because you had to have the Earth had to become a metamorphosis had to happen here on Earth, on the physical and the astral planes, and the etheric planes. Certain shields had to come up, certain things that would have killed us, because you had an advanced race here, and the atmosphere was much more magnetic than it is now, and what had to happen was the Earth had to go through a solidification process in order to allow mankind to be born on the gross physical plane. Because every plane is physical, but you're talking about ground zero physical that we had to be born on, and which what we're living in now. And and it took a lot of work to bring that about. The vegetation had to change, the water had to change, the whole ring pass knot had to happen, as Madam Alexi talked about it, which affected even the atomic structure of things, you know. So in other words, a karmic restriction had to happen to make sure that we progress at the proper timetable. Now, in the beginning, they gave a lot of help, and in order to push us along. But after a while, they had to step back and allow us to create the action and reaction that we needed in order to gain our forward movement.
I mean, they with the intelligence design that they believe in, that they're actually right in that there is lots of intelligence.
I think most religions believe in an intelligent design. I think most scientists believe in that too. Although most scientists, a lot of scientists they don't believe in a God, you know, but then a lot do. So, but yeah, I mean, the science is only the study of God's creation. You know,
it's amazing they miss all these steps in between, isn't it? They have the God, and then they miss all these thousands of soldiers underneath. You know,
but it's right here. I mean, there's only one life, and that one life is God. And only thing we do, we study the life of God. You know, we study creation in order to see how this whole thing was put together. And it was mapped out thousands of years ago, but the physical scientists, with their greed and arrogancy, they refuse to look at it only at the last resort. When you talk to the atomic scientists back 50-some years ago, they kept referencing the ancient Sanskrit teachings of the Hindus. You know, you go back and look at old videos of them, because why? Because when they came up with their atomic weapon, the whole thing was referenced in the ancient teachings of the Vedas. In fact, they drew one of the malas or yantras drew that they had for concentration or in all their mystical practices. It was a carbon copy of the electrical and engineering format. Because when you go back to their teachings, they talk about the Brahma weapon. They talk about nuclear blasts. They talk about an atomic ray, and how they use these machines or instruments to destroy millions and billions of people at one time. So it's right there in the ancient teachings. And then when you look at their understanding of subtle energy, it describes life, and even the periodical chart. You could see the periodical chart must have came from their science, but of course the physical scientist is not going to tell you that.
That's amazing, yeah.
So I hope I didn't confuse you, but
no, it's very clear. It's just very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question from YouTube. It says, we've talked about the different forms or methods of chanting mantra. It says one out loud, which affects the physical world, and astrally and ether. And so what is that affecting in the person?
don't understand what they're talking about, but I can tell you what the rules are. The rules are, if you chant a mantra aloud, you affect the physical gross planes of existence. If you whisper a mantra, you affect the mental worlds that they interplay with the physical and psychic worlds. And if you have a pure thought of a mantra, chanting a mantra just with thought alone, then you affect the psychic world. And in order to chant a mantra, in order to have a pure thought of a mantra, you have to be able to roll the tongue back and immobilize the tongue so that it doesn't interfere with the output of that mantra when you are thinking that mantra. So you immobilize the tongue, which creates physical sound and whisper sound. And then you have a psychic chanting of the mantra. So, I mean, that is the rules. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, I think he was referring to like when we recite the mantra in a whisper, or like you were saying, or rolling back the tongue, what effect does that have on the individual who's chanting it?
Well, you have a mental body. So the mental body, it affects the mental body. It helps to enhance or project mental energy. So, I mean, that's one way. I won't give you the exercise, but I can describe the exercise to you. There's a visualization exercise. Let's say if you want to create a situation, there's a way to chant the mantra by whispering the mantra. First of all, by chanting the mantra aloud to build up a vortex of energy, and then move into a whisper of the mantra. And then you create the visualization, and then you charge that visualization with the energy that you just brought together. And you finish it off by going into a psychic chanting of the mantra. But you have to practice before you do these things, and you'll find that the situation that you want to bring about will come about. And those are types of exercises they use for those type of forms of mantra in order to help progress in a proper way, not in a negative way, not to cast spells on someone, but in order to bring about a proper situation that you want to bring about in order to help a group or even yourself advance in order to help the world. I hope that answered the question.
And he said, yes, that's what I meant. Thank you. Any additional questions?
May I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead, Reggie.
Yes, thank you. Can one transcend samsara, and how does karma affect your life? Can you transcend these concepts of samsara? I guess nirvana is a part of this. What does one have to do to liberate themselves from these ideas and concepts?
Let's say, Reggie, let's say you You take a ball and you hit it against the wall. What happens to that ball?
It bounces back.
Bounces back. That's karma.
Ah,
Action and reaction.
right.
So what are we taught to do? We're taught to predetermine our actions. And so how do we do that? By building the right character and purpose for our lives. And what we begin to do, we begin to rise above certain actions that bring about negative reactions. Over the past couple thousand years, we learned not to stick our hand in the fire, right? Humanity as a whole learned not to do that. You know, why? Because it brings a negative reaction to our physical body and mental bodies. So, but we learned that we can control fire through various temperatures in order to nourish us, in order to keep us warm. You know, that's predetermining our actions. So we have did this for our environment, but we have not did this for our mental states. That's why we fall into what the Hindus and the Buddhists and the mystics talk about, the 21 major impurities of our actions, such as hate, malice, jealousy, envy, all of these negative impurities that causes the wrong reaction. You know, there are karmic actions that cause the wrong reactions. So we have to mold our behavior so that we don't fall towards these type of negative actions to create more negative samskaras within our auric fields that forces us to have a negative karma, you know, and continue to be reborn here on this physical plane. Now, the masters, the seers, the swamis, the bodhisattvas that have came here, they gave us methods to do this and to burn up. Going back to your answer, to burn up these negative samskaras. We just talked about one way, mantra. When you chant mantra for long periods of time correctly and properly, you burn up negative samskaras. You decode your aura over a period of time. When the Swami Sivananda, who was one of the great bodhisattvas that came here in the last 100 years, he when the soldiers came back from war, they would come and ask, you know, what can I do? I killed, destroyed, and you know, I did these terrible things in war. And he and many other great yogis and swamis gave them a mantra and told them to chant this mantra millions of times and devote your life to serving other people. And you will eventually burn up the negative karma of going out there, you know, killing and destroying whole cities and people. So yeah, prayer, mantra, right thought and action, burn up negative samskaras and allow you to eventually raise the power of Kundalini in a controlled manner and bring that Kundalini up to the crown chakra and enter nirvana or samadhi or cosmic consciousness, and eventually bring the Kundalini up to the Christ center and up to the Buddhic center, which is the crown center, and that's when you break the wheel of rebirth. That's when you break samsara. That's when you break that wheel of rebirth. When you can move the full power of Kundalini into the crown chakra, then you become a cosmic being and you have no need to be reborn unconsciously. At that point, you will be reborn. You will be reborn consciously. Anytime you need to be reborn, you will do it in a conscious state. And that's what the spiritual hierarchy of Earth, or you heard of the Great White Brotherhood, that's what all that means. Those are ascended masters. Jesus was an ascended master. He became an ascended master in the body that he was in. Sri Krishna became an ascended master. Buddha became an ascended master in the body that was here on earth. They broke the wheel of rebirth. So that's what that means. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, it was a very good answer. It just seems like it's very harmonious. Disharmony would be, I guess, would have karmic reactions, and also in harmony too. So if you spread harmony, I guess it comes back to you. Disharmony creates more of a more karmatic effects of rebirth.
Yeah, I mean, it follows the law. The law is the law. Action and reaction. It's opposite but equal. So you know, what you put out, you get back. If you stop putting out negative actions and put out positive actions, then you start putting positive actions. Your life is not full of drama anymore.
Right. Very good answer. Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
Hey, Nehemiah, good afternoon.
Yeah.
I got a question about the diagram. I'm looking at it, the pages. I know you noticed you on the last page, I don't want to get too far ahead of the current page, but on the last page, I noticed that you made a note of the obviously the positive and negative samskaras. But yeah. I want to know if you purposely did not get into the deeper aspects of samskaras when it comes to the evolution of the soul and the descent of Kundalini, and why the mystic practices really work, and why they're so powerful as Kundalini makes a descent and makes these deposits in our auric structure. Or you just wanted to leave that for a later discussion?
Yeah, I did this. This diagram is probably 15, 20 years old.
Okay.
So I was teaching a class that wasn't ready for that.
Okay.
And but I think I did speak about it back then, but there's a lot of other diagrams I think that goes into that.
No, you did. That's why I remember it. I remember it specifically that you said it was. I remember you talking about it was twofold. That most of the time when you hear about it, it's always about our negative actions, or just the things that we do now in our conscious waking state. But you specifically had a class on the real deeper aspects of what happens when Kundalini makes that descent, and we begin to build the auric bodies around it. That the samskaras that people talk about so much that are usually negative, there's a whole flip side to that really works in your favor once you understand how understand it.
Yeah. Well, what Bernard is talking about, you raise Kundalini, and then when you bring Kundalini back down, deposits of the Kundalini stays in certain regions of the body, which helps you to empower yourself and reach higher states of consciousness. And at the same time, you begin to reconfigure your karmic pattern because of that. So that's another mechanism that begins to happen. That's why you see you all who are psychic, you see someone of a great presence. They walk into a building, you can sense them coming into the building, even though they might be four or 10 floors down, because of this residue left there by their own right actions. So I mean, that's in a person consciousness stays at a certain level. They, you know, it's just like most human beings. We don't descend back to the animalistic levels of a tiger or a mad dog. You know, we're elevated above that. We're self-conscious. So as you build and raise the power of Kundalini, you become part of the divine consciousness, and that's the difference in the reconfiguration of your karmic pattern. Right, Bernard. That's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, specifically when it comes to the power of mantra and why mantra works. If you look at the petals, you know, these are actually. I remember you saying that these are actually seeds of the same seeds that, you know, that we've built up years of anger, malice, greed, jealous. You know, the soul or Kundalini in embodying itself in the auric structure made the same deposit of these seeds that are there to be activated with these with the practices of primarily mantra, mudra, and
when you raise Kundalini, in order to raise Kundalini, each chakra has a particular seed mantra in it, or petal, or a series of what they call BJs. The meditation is done on those petals, and those petals are which are the knotty knots. They are untangled. That's what you're talking about, right?
Yes, because the actual seed is a samskara in a sense.
That's right. And they are untangled, and the tremendous power that's locked up in that seed is released to the individual, and to the meditator, or because it takes meditation in order to raise Kundalini. I mean, real meditation. And then it unties that knotty knot, or that petal, and a meditation is done on that, and you become one with that, and all the devic power that's been stored there by the soul is revealed to you, and the all knowledge space connected to that is revealed to you, and now you have access to this great power. And then as you move up to the next level, you close down those petals and go to the next chakra, and you open those petals. You have to do a meditation on each one. The first chakra have 4 petals. The second chakra have 6 petals. The third chakra have 10 petals. So you do a meditation on each one of those petals. And that's where the stored information, because they are, that's what the soul used to guide you. It left tremendous knowledge in each petal to guide you on your journey back to God, back to the God state as conscious gods.
I think he even went as far as to say that a mantra is a samskara for the soul.
Yes, it is. I go into that, and I think I go into that in my book. You want to pick up my book, I go into details.
It's a question from YouTube, but I believe you answered it already. So once the samskaras play out and you manipulate your karma, do you in turn get new pure energy?
What do you mean by the play out? I think I just described the actions of it. Because the major samskara is the petals. The negative samskaras is the actions of cycles of life, which become the impurities of the auric fields, which slows up forward progress. Yeah, well, they're talking about the negative samskaras that you have embedded there. Those negative samskaras, once you have the knowledge of anything, then you know not to do that. Yes, you have power over that. If you have seized that power, that's what I was talking about earlier. If you have the knowledge of fire, then you know how to use fire. You know how to use fire. If you have the knowledge of whatever negative samskara that stop you from moving forward in something, once you get the knowledge over that, then you know how to keep it out of your life. Any other question?
Okay, Zai, I see your hand is raised. Go ahead and ask your question.
Awesome, thank you. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you well.
Yeah.
Okay, my question is it possible for a person to, let's say if they establish a relationship with a group of people, to start seeing the karmic relationships that they're gonna have to work out with those people long before they actually got to that point? Is that something that's real?
Yes.
Yeah, that happens all the time.
Okay, all right.
I mean, most mystics or psychics that you talk to, they meet a person for the first time. They know that that's going to be a life partner, or they know that that person's going to be in their life for a long time. And some even know that this is not their first journey. They've probably been together for lifetimes.
Okay.
So yeah, that's always the case. So the ones who are awake and understand that.
And okay, all right, thank you. And so my other question ties to that in some ways. About 2 years ago, I came in contact with this monk who basically said that he pointed to the sky and he said that whoever sent a bunch of beings on Earth but put a cap on their ability, and because the Mother Earth is going through a transition, they're actually removing that cap so those beings can be in greater service to humanity, where before they had a cap so they weren't able to do that to the capacity that they are now. Is that true?
I mean, history tell us about the ring. You heard me talk about the ring past knot, right?
Yes, yes.
Have you studied that?
Not aside from what we've talked about, no.
Yeah, go back and study that. The ring past knot, Madame Blavatsky, that was her phrase back in the 1800s.
Okay.
She had several students that really went into it and talked about it in the early 1900s. Dr. George King gave a practical explanation to it in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, where he said it's the ionospheric belt around the Earth, or the ozone layer around the Earth.
Right.
That's the physical component of it, and said that it changed the molecular structure of the Earth, and that this will be lifted.
Yeah.
And it's being lifted now because of the primary initiation of the Earth, which Dr. King talks about, that happened July 8th, 1964, where the Earth the Earth came to its half-life, and the Earth went through an initiation, which gave her energies to raise the vibrations of this Earth, and eventually all life on Earth have to correct themselves. And so that's maybe what he was talking about, but that's clearly laid out over hundreds of years that is talked about in the ancient books and the modern books.
All right, and thank you. And this is more of a silly question, but in the years that I've sit in all of your teachings and just kind of hear you speak and the things that you share, I guess curiosity for me is just about. It's going to be really silly, but do you know a lot about? I'm assuming that you know a lot about your past lives and just like you've traveled.
Yeah, I do, but I don't really talk about that.
Okay.
I talk about the here and now.
Okay. All right.
But I was fortunate as a child to know about my past life. And as I grew older, I learned more.
Okay.
So, but most people are not that fortunate.
Right. And because the monk said something similar to me. He mentioned a few of his past lives, and then I asked him, does it make it difficult knowing the great deeds that you did in your previous life? Like, does it feel like there's pressure on you to be that now? And his answer to that was quite interesting. So I guess it just sparked that idea in listening to you and learning from you and growing from you. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Well, thank you though. That was it.
All right. We have to deal with the here and now. What we were before made us and gave us this moment. So we use that energy to move forward.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
All right.
So another question, is there anything you can tell us about deja vu from a karmic point of view?
I mean, deja vu is part of your makeup. I mean, your body have a defense system. So let's say you walk into a room and you had a horrible accident with a situation like that in 4 or 5 lifetimes before. So your body and your mind, it recognized the series of happenings or situation at that time. And it allows you to have this deja vu. It probably gave you the deja vu 2 or 3, maybe 4 days, maybe a month ahead of time, whether you recognized it, understood it, or didn't. But the body have that mechanism because it's aware of what's coming. It's aware of your environments. It's aware of all those things. And if you have risen above that particular thing, or you have had some type of trauma from that, your body, your mind, your auric fields is gonna warn you to stay away or to move away from that. So you're gonna experience that through visions, through dreams, through through all type of things, through feelings. All 10 senses are going to be awakened to warn you of this coming thing that may be good or may not be good. So you just have to pay attention to your senses. I hope that answered the question.
Are dreams a reflection of your past lives?
No, I don't think it is. Dreams in most cases is just past thoughts. Past thoughts or situations. Visions, you can have a vision of your past life or what's coming to you. You have a vision of that, but not a dream. A vision is a psychic incident. It's your higher self giving you a message, giving the basic self a message. It's like intuition, but on steroids almost.
Okay, are there any additional questions? Okay. Yes, you answered my question, but is the situation always only negative? So people report about casual everyday situations which don't bear any particular meaning, but are immediately recognized. This is in reference to the question of deja vu.
No, I think I said that whether it's good or bad. So deja vu is not always bad. It's you can have a deja vu of something positive too. I know sometimes I get busy in my daily world, and then all of a sudden I have, I guess it's called deja vu, but like when something's good going to happen, I know that it's going to happen. And it's like I've been there before, and I know that it's like the feeling of a good event that's about to happen. The same way the feeling of a bad event that's about to happen. So yeah, it's good and bad. It's not, and it's indifferent. So it's not always negative.
Okay. Let's go ahead and transition into the diagrams. We've actually been talking about these subjects all day. So there's been several questions and comments already on samskaras, both positive and negative. So we open up this diagram talking about these stored and released samskaras. So as you sow, as quoted by the Master Jesus, as you sow, so shall you reap, or even by the Lord Buddha, action and reaction is opposite but equal. And in this diagram, you see the picture of the human being and their aura, and these green orbs that represent different types of samskaras. Now, as Bernard has pointed out earlier, they're both positive and negative samskaras. Usually when we talk about samskaras, we think about only the negative, but that's not true. They're positive and negative samskaras, and even samskaras laid down by the soul, but that's, we'll get into that later. But generally speaking, and looking at this, we can see that there are different types of samskaras and they come into play at various levels in the aura. So we'll kind of start at the innermost level. As you can kind of see in the center of the body here, these orbs represent stored samskaras from past thoughts and actions from life, either this or previous life experiences. And as we go along through various actions and different experiences, these samskaras move further and further to the what Nehemiah describes as further through the valence levels of the aura, making their way closer and closer to the I guess outermost level of the aura where the samskara manifests itself. So we have samskaras that's being woken up by actions and present conditions. And these move further and further out of the aura as samskaras driven to the surface by actions and present conditions. So Nehemiah, does this mean that within our aura, there could potentially be countless numbers of samskaras ranging from unknown number of lives in the past, just waiting to be awoken?
Of course, that's what it means, yes. And it can be millions, billions of samskaras. This is the thing that weighs us down and not allow us to take flight. As Reggie was talking about going into a sin, these are the things that's happened us to have to be reborn in order to have these experiences.
So could these be like, I don't know, karmic landmines just waiting for the right situation to pop up?
Huh?
So could these be like karmic landmines or just waiting for the right situations to pop up on us? Or?
Yeah, the samskaras are like some of the ancient teachings say that it's mental images or scars that have scarred the auric field and tuck up residence there and is feeding on the life force of that aura until, and it goes into this dormant state until the right situation allows it to have enough energy to express itself within your personality, within your life, you know. And sometimes you have a buildup of negative samskaras, like what's the name? What's the famous general? They say 16% of the world have his seed.
Genghis Khan?
Genghis Khan, yeah. So you have a person that have built up all these negative samskaras, and then they release them in one life. you know, where they, and a lot of good samskaras, Abbott Schweitzer, I mean, you know, people of that work their whole life to help the sick, the hopeless, you know. So it's vice versa. It's good samskaras and bad samskaras that can be released, you know, in one life. I mean, hundreds, thousands, millions of situations.
You know, right after you mentioned, or right after I mentioned Genghis Khan, your feed cut out, but it came
Oh,
back.
yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm surprised about that one, but it came back up, so we can hear you clearly now.
Okay.
So, a question online: are we able to target specific samskaras? Let's say the bigger negative ones that may cause a domino effect on the smaller to be cleared.
Yeah, I mean, it's your life. You can target whatever. I mean, it's your life. I mean, if you want to build a better character for yourself, if you want to burn up negative karma, then you work towards not allowing that situation to ever happen again. As we educate ourselves, as we come into fold of the laws of karma and try to mold and shape our lives, we burn up negative karma. We burn up negative samskaras. If you take the 8 limbs of yoga that's given to us, the first is yama, where you control your thoughts and actions, and the second is nayama, where you recognize God in everything. You know, just those 2 yamas, you'll burn up a lot of negative karma. You know, and it doesn't matter what religion you're in. You can practice this. You can be a Christian, a Jew. You can be a Hindu, a Buddhist. You can be anything. A Muslim, and you can practice these 8 limbs of yoga where you work towards burning up these negative karmas and taking control of your life, predetermining all your actions and thoughts. And what happened, you'll have massive amounts of these negative samskaras burn away, and then the positive samskaras will have room to produce themselves and live within you and express themselves. They're megabytes of energy that you can use.
So when you say that the negative samskaras are burnt up, is that in the sense that that energy is eliminated or it's transmuted into something higher or greater?
Yeah, in other words, like I was trying to say earlier, I don't know if I'm making sense, but right now, if I lit a fire in a room, you're not going to walk into the room and walk right into the fire, right?
Right.
Because you have the knowledge that fire will burn and scar you.
Right.
So when you use the power of Jnana Yoga, of knowledge and wisdom, you know that certain actions are only going to create a negative reaction. So that's how you burn. There's no room to allow that samskara to exist, waiting for a predetermined day to express itself. The opportunity for that is gone, so then it's burnt up. That energy is used for something else. So that's what that means. There's no pathway for that samskara to actually express itself.
So in yoga, when I remember Paramahansa Yogananda saying this, and you saying this too as well. If you have a desire, you know, any type of drugs, sex, whatever, to not to suppress it, but to, you know, push through it, get it out of your system in a sense, where you just do so much of it until you no longer uh, desire that particular action or thing anymore. Is that I guess a physical way of burning up a samskara in the aura?
If you have a what now? If you said you do what?
Like I remember being told that if you have like a desire for something, like a desire for sex or a desire for some type of negative uh, behavior, and we were taught not to suppress it, but to exercise, if you can't, transmute it to something higher than to indulge
Yeah.
in it and burn up the desire, so you no longer have desire anymore.
Yeah, that's only if you, at the end of you going through that exercise of that desire, that you come out on the other side, understanding the the negative effects that brought about. You know, you understand?
Yes, I understand. Mhm.
Yeah, it's like there was one movie, Sandy Portier said that his father locked him into, his father caught him smoking and made him go into a room or a closet or something and made him smoke cigarettes until he couldn't take it anymore. And then he understood that smoking cigarettes, that he can't do that, according to, in the movie he was talking. So he called his son and he made his son do the same thing. But that's only if at the end of all of that, you can see the damage that it did. Because it may have you fall right back into the cycle of doing the wrong thing over and over and over until you can get away from the fixation of it.
So say for in the practice of mantra, when we're spinning the aura and throwing down and burning off these samskaras, I noticed, at least in my situation, yes, I deal with the grass-hopping thoughts that go from different subjects to try and, you know, distract me while I'm focusing. But also there will be times where just what seems to me completely foreign thought or sensation will just come up and kind of race through the body while I'm reciting this mantra. And I won't know what it is or where it comes from. I didn't even know if it's my thought or not, because it just seems so foreign. But it's or even while I'm trying to pray, performing the 12 blessings, the mind is pulled towards something I would never even thought about before. Is that an example of some scar being burnt up?
I don't know. It could be, it could not be. I don't know. It depends on your level of concentration. It depends on a lot of stuff. I can't say.
Okay.
But one of the things when you're chanting mantra, you're essentially decoding the body, the mental and auric bodies and physical aspects of the aura. So a lot of the negative samskara fall. It's inhibited. Let's say that it's inhibited because of that action, because that's a higher action. You know, you become in sync with your higher self and your higher consciousness, with the soul itself that created this existence. So that's why that is the way it is. You're making a great sacrifice to allow that action to happen. So that's the big difference. Because a mantra is a sacred. Mantra is sacred sound. It's sound spoken by the gods, given to us by the gods and spoken by the gods. So when we take out the time of our day to repeat that mantra, it's a big thing. And that's the difference.
Okay.
Remember what the yogis tell us, or what the ancient teachers tell us, that the soul, that an aspect of the soul repeats a mantra 21,600 times a day to allow us to take a breath, to allow this physical body to take a breath, and to keep this physical body locked into this physical realm and astral realm of existence.
Right.
So when you try to become in sync with that, then it's a sacred moment, and you making the job of the soul easier, and you're allowing the soul to play its job and work to help manage the hundreds of thousands of levels of energy in mind. So that's the big difference.
Is the soul in any way affected by our samskaras? I know we talked before that the soul places original samskaras within the aura, but
so the soul is like the soul is the devata.
Right.
What does the devata do? It imposes pressures. It's like a great lord of karma over our life. So it places restrictions and pressure on us in order to have us perform and conform to the laws. So it's affected. It's only affected by carrying out the law. I mean, it carry out the law of the laws of karma.
So it is the soul, in a sense, is that karmic agent placing the pressure towards conformity upon us?
Yeah, the soul follows the directions of the spirit. So therefore the soul always follow the laws of karma, the same way any great devata will do. But the lower aspects of the soul, so the soul it helps put the negative karma, the pressures of negative and positive karma on the lower aspects of itself. The same way you would do with your child.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You know, you buy a house, you erect the fence, and you say, don't go outside this fence, and don't go outside this house at certain hours of the day, and the day and the night, and don't go out this fence certain hours of the day, and you need permission in order to leave.
So here we go on to show again that the samskaras are working themselves out to the most outermost level of the aura, where it manifests itself. Now, is this manifestation only reflected in the physical body, or is it manifested through? It could be manifested in any of the bodies.
But which one you just read?
this top one here says where it's at
Yeah,
the most
it's
advanced level.
manifested in the mental, physical, emotional. It's manifested in all the bodies that allow us to express life and gain experience in life. So I mean, and once you have that manifestation, it can be a positive reaction or a negative reaction. It can build on a positive action or build on a negative action.
Yeah, I want to go back to something you mentioned when you were talking about that pressure towards conformity. Because I know this is something I kind of struggle with I don't know, maybe struggle is not the right word, but something I felt my entire life, where I've always felt as if I have a particular path in life and I was never allowed to go too far to the left or too far to the right and deviating from that path. I could see my companions or peers, they seem to be able to allow to do whatever they want, whenever they want, and have fun enjoying it. But that wasn't the case for me. Like there's certain behaviors I couldn't engage in or I had no interest in at all. Even if I tried to engage into it, I'd be quickly pulled back to, you know, I guess that weren't the path I'm supposed to follow. So would that, in a sense, be an example of some scars from a previous life that were built up that are, in a sense, in this life, helping me to continue on the path I have chosen? But
I think in most cases it's like that with most people, that they have a particular personality that allows them to engage in certain activities and not engage in other activities. And that's their karmic pattern. And if they go and try to engage in those in the wrong activities, the karmic pressure falls on them hard, and to correct their trajectory of their progress. So, and you know, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It can be a good thing.
Yeah, it's not. But as a child, it would sometimes be frustrating. Like, why can't I do what they do? But I understand it now as more so as an adult. But growing up, at times it could be pretty frustrating. And at times I can see it as a protection as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but the way I think you should realize that that is also an indication of your evolution, because we are governed. I mean, it's a simple word, but it just means so much. We're governed by our own consciousness, and our consciousness creates and manages our environment. And the environment, might seem common to everybody, but it's really independent of everybody. So I can tell you a personal experience I had. One day, I had a real grumpy neighbor, and he was the most miserable man on planet Earth. And I said the most miserable man on planet Earth. So, I used to ride my bike everywhere, and I don't know, she must have said something to me or did something stupid in the morning. I said something to me, so I said, "Oh, we're fixing." So I went and got a nail, and I put a nail in the driveway, and I placed the nail exactly where I thought he was going to run over that nail with the car. So I get on my bike, and bam, I'm gone. I must be gone for like 2 hours. And as I'm coming back home, I had this little ritual where I would be flying down my sidewalk, and I would go in and out of these half circular driveways. And nobody's home, so, I'm flying in and out, pedals scraping the ground just to see how fast I can go. Come flying down the street, I went in and out of every driveway. Go in and out of my neighbor's driveway, go in my driveway, put my bike down, go get something to drink, come back out, my tire's flat. I ran over my own nail. The driveway's got to be at least 20 feet wide. My bicycle tire is 2 inches wide, and I ran over my own nail. Same thing happened one day. I was going to a McDonald's. I was barefoot, just come from Jamaica, and I saw a bottle on the ground. And me and my friend was walking. I was flipping the bottle up and down. I said, "Oh, let me just bust this bottle, see what it's like." Flip the bottle way up in the air, landed on the ground. I go to McDonald's. I'm walking back. What did I step on?
The glass.
The glass. Like, and why did it happen? Why? Because I think it's based upon the teachings. It's the evolution of your own consciousness. And fortunately or unfortunately, the more conscious you are, whether you realize it or not, the faster it will come back on you. And so the real thing is you got to watch out for people who are able to do things and get away with that. That tells you a lot about that person and just how far off they are in terms of their own soul realizing, what's right from wrong. Because the more you know, the more conscious you are, the faster the law will come back on you real fast. You won't be able to get away with nothing. You'll be the first one caught when you try to do anything.
Right. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Bernard. What was I gonna? Something I wanted to say about that, I forgot. Okay, so let's move over to the left side of this diagram. Like I mentioned before, we tend to focus a lot on negative samskaras, but on the left-hand side, we look at a lot of positive samskaras that also make their way to the outermost valence level of the aura. And these are some scars, for example, that fuel, fatherly skills, or some scars that fuel professional skills, athletic skills, partying and social skills. So in other words, these are, positive types of scars that also make their way to the outermost level of the aura and activate when we're in a certain scenario. So particularly some scars that feel professional skills. When we see what we call prodigies, for example, children that are, I know you've mentioned before in previous classes, children that are put in front of a piano, they hear a tune and then they're able to reproduce that tune almost immediately after just familiarizing themselves one time with the piano, and are very good at whatever they do, almost like as if they're gifted or whatever. That too is an example of a positive samskara reflecting itself in that present incarnation built up over several previous lives. Would you say, anyone?
Yeah, I think that's so. I mean, everybody has that, whether they recognize it or not. I noticed it in my family. I noticed it in myself. I came into this world as an artist. I can draw anything. I can paint anything. I can sculpture. Those things came natural to me, and no one had to teach me how to do it.
Mm-hmm,
So, and from a child, I'm talking about from 2, 3, 4 years old, I was able to do those things. And it was not unfamiliar to me. So I just picked up a pencil and picked up clay or paint and just went here and do it. And I noticed other family members of mine, I had family members that was good with music. They were able to just walk up to a computer, press the notes, and then just start playing. So that's just your past life. If you learn something in your past lives, then you'll notice that you have an instinct for those things in this life, especially if you did it over and over and over and over again. So.
Yeah, I know. As a child, my mother, she brought my brother and I into a music store and told us, pick an instrument, and I naturally gravitated to the violin, picked it up, and knew how to hold it, and was, they were kind of surprised, like, how did you learn that? I was like, I just knew. I picked it up and knew how to play. I wasn't a virtuoso or anything like that, but it was a natural thing to do.
You know, those were skills that wasn't inhibited in you. So a lot of people have those type of skills. You know, another thing, science came easy to me.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to understand science, understand how things work. You know, I was able to follow mechanisms. You know, so and I found a lot of other people like that. My brother was like that. My brother, you know, my brother was a natural artist. He was a scientist. You know, and like my father spoke like 4 or 5 languages. My brother spoke 3 languages. You know, I fell short of that, but but that was something that they had in their past lives, I think, that they were able to do.
And so that brings me to a question, because the question is, how would you adopt a I guess long-term multi-life perspective in your daily operations? So the background behind that, you know, like I mentioned, as a child, I naturally gravitated to the violin. I loved performing, but I hated practicing. You know, it seems like I would spend hours and hours and days and days and days practicing for this, you know, 1 hour performance. But I disliked practicing, so I would rarely do it. And of course, my progress would be stunted as a result. You know, we're used to that instant gratification. You know, you order something to a next day, 2 days later, it comes in. So we're used to having instant gratification, but that isn't necessarily the case when it comes to, you know, spiritual yogic work. You know, you can spend years doing a practice or your entire life doing a practice and won't see the results of it, you know, until maybe 10 years later, a couple years later, or even a couple of lives later. So how do we adopt a mentality that says, okay, I predetermined that this is the result that I want. I may not see it in this life. I may not see it for 10 lives, but you know, how can I keep with it in that particular practice until it, I guess, that some scar manifests itself physically?
Well, I don't know. I mean, if you put enough energy behind anything, you can have it produce something. So if it's not happening, it's because you're doing something wrong, in my opinion. If you're not being able to grow spiritually, you're doing something wrong, or you're not recognizing that something, you know, you're not recognizing that maybe you have achieved something. So I don't know. I just, I don't know about that. I mean, because I think a lot of times, especially if we have a wrong intention, we you know, we move in the wrong direction. You know.
Okay, there's a question here. So if someone isn't conscious, would the karma not come back? Or perhaps they wouldn't equate it to their karma?
What do they mean by that? I don't understand. Yeah, karma is happening all the time, whether that person is conscious and unconscious or whatever. Most of the population of the earth is walking around unconscious, but the negative and positive karma is still happening.
I think they were referring to, you know, when people do certain things and they're seemingly able to get away with it. Yeah, the karma comes back. It's just a little delayed for those people, but eventually it catches up with them.
Yeah, it's because action and reaction is what it is. I mean, just because they're not aware of the reaction and they seem not to be affected by it, that doesn't mean that they didn't get a negative reaction. You know. And then it's the situation they in, and then what certain things take priority, and then again, as I told you all before many a times, you know, bad and good is looked at in different ways from different situations and different, you know, different places on earth, you know. So, but everybody gets exactly what they deserve, unfortunately. And fortunately.
So I'm looking again at this diagram, and you have these concentric circles going out from the center to the edge of the aura. But just jumping ahead a little bit, in the other diagram where you talk about negative and positive scars, on the negative side you have a lot of these concentric circles. On the positive side you have a couple of these concentric circles. And I'm thinking, is that depicting the verities or the distortions in the aura, or is there something else you're trying to describe there?
Yeah. Well, that was the original, because there was I think there's several other slides that should have went with this, but yeah. Okay. That's and then there was one that showed the verities is it happens on the outer layer of the aura, which causes this distortion. But when you begin to practice the right things, live a right life, bring about detachment and unselfishness and all these positive samskaras, then your aura smooths out. Your mental and astral and physical aura begins to smooth out.
So it is that smoothing out process that's burning up the negatives and some scars.
Yeah, it doesn't. It has no. The negative samskaras does not have a pathway to express itself. Just like that inner desire in you. If you've seen fire for the first time, it doesn't have a pathway to make you stick your hand in the fire anymore. See, so all that curiosity is burnt up and used in another way. You know, mankind as he learned that he can move faster than 35 miles per hour, the curiosity of not going 35 miles per hour left him. You know, the fear, I mean, you know, remember, if you look at history, they said that you couldn't go faster than 35 miles per hour.
Right, I remember.
And then when they created the locomotive and the cars that can do more than that, the fear of moving past that was no longer there. You know, fast forward 100 years later, by 1968, they were moving 3,000 miles per hour in a jet, in that spy jet. So, you know, there was no more fear. You know, so the more knowledge and understanding that you have, you create a different, your consciousness moves to a certain level where those basic fears and basic negative samskaras, they have no pathway to exist anymore.
Right. So that centrifugal effect that you always talk about, it's exactly like what happens when, you know, for example, like a blood sample is put in a centrifuge. When it's first put in there, it's a mixture, and you can't differentiate the different elements. But when it's put through the centrifuge, everything is separated by density.
Right.
And so these heavier negatives and scars during the practice of mantra are separated and diffused from the rest of the aura, thrown out to the most valence level and burnt up. Zai, I see you have your hand raised. Go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you. I've seen a couple of videos, and I'm sure some of you may have seen videos where you'll see animals like pigs and chickens and all these different animals get treated really badly. My question is more so, when you eat the animals who've gone through that level of trauma, are you taking on the samskaras of that we as humans have placed on these animals by eating them? Do you take on that? I know you take on the energy. Would you say that samskaras are also a part of that too? Like you start embodying?
You take on the negative group karma for that.
Okay.
Which is really bad. It's a terrible thing.
Okay.
It was Madame Blavatsky back in the 1800s. She wrote a article in the Theosophical, and she was talking about vegetarianism.
Yeah.
And she said, as this sun rises, she said, millions of chickens are losing their life. And many pigs or animals are suffering just to feed,
right.
The human when when the earth have already given us every plant and every seed and everything we ever need.
Right.
And she paints a picture. If you can go find that article, it really paints a picture. I think it'll bring you to tears if you actually read it from your heart. I mean, it's a terrible thing what we do to animals.
Right.
What the human race do. That's another thing. I came into this world knowing that I didn't need to eat meat. That was something foreign to me.
So you didn't find it as with that knowing you didn't find. Oh, sorry.
My parents were vegetarian, and I became a vegetarian and stayed a vegetarian.
Okay.
So I thought the eating of another animal, I just thought that was crazy.
Hey, I remember there was an episode. I remember you made a joke one time that there was ever an alien race in the body of a chicken that came to this planet. The moment they land, the first thing they'll do is pull that lever. And there was an episode a long time ago. I have a son, and he used to watch Jimmy Neutron, and there was an episode with Jimmy Neutron, and there was a chicken being by the name of Poltra, who was a giant chicken being. I think it was in a spaceship or something. And it landed on Earth, and it was treated the humans as enemies. But I remember that because if there was ever an advanced being in the body of any of the animals we consume land on this planet, we're done for.
Yeah, I mean, think about that. It might be intelligent life out there wearing the body of a chicken or even a cow. And if they ever come here, it's going to be a sad story for the human race.
Thank you.
Because the mass slaughter the way they treat chickens and cows and pigs. So, I don't think all intelligent life is in a humanoid body. I mean, that'd be ridiculous to think.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess to kind of piggyback off of that, I remember a couple of years ago, I had an experience where I was in a Subway restaurant. This was after I, started practicing and took on a vegetarian diet. But I was about to order, but my attention was drawn to the turkey breast on the behind the counter, and I just stared at it, and immediately I felt these incredible feelings of fear, terror, anxiety, and my chest got tight, and I was shaking and sweating. And I knew I just had to run out of there and get out of there, and I didn't know where that was coming from. And I think years later, a couple of months later, I talked to you about it, and you told me that, yeah, that was the emotions of that animal that was imprinted in that meat, and you were picking up off of it, you're picking it up. And it was just like, wow.
Right. You can feel that the residue and fear and anguish that animal went through when in its death, it's still there, and we take that in, or you all take that in at least when you eat the meat.
Right. Okay. At the bottom of this diagram, talks about 3 kinds of karma and 3 fundamental types of karmic acts, but we're already approaching the 2-hour mark. So I guess we'll leave that for next class. But are there any final questions before we close out?
Yeah, I got one question. Was the intent to go over all 4 pages in one session, or was it each page a class?
No, we just do it at the pace.
Okay.
Yeah, my intention was to go 1 page per class, but I think the very first diagram we spent almost 4 or 5 classes going over. So it's like I changed my mind. All right, we'll just go with the flow with it and see what we can cover.
So today's the first day you went over this diagram.
Correct. So then I think the 2 weeks ago we went over page 1, this first page, and last week we finished up that page and went into the second page, the basic laws of karma. And actually, we can probably go back to this page and cover more stuff on it, but I kind of kept it surface level for that one. And then today we went into karmic energies, this 3rd page, but we're going to come back to it in the next class.
Okay, I wasn't sure because I was traveling, so I wasn't sure if you were doing a diagram at a time or a page at a time.
We're trying to cover as much as we can.
Okay.
The question online, can you maybe explain the proper way to mirror gaze or meditate?
Let's take a minute. I mean, if they email me, I will go into it. And I'll direct them to some books too.
All right. Where is this read mode? Why can I never find this? Let's just go ahead and close out with our prayer. Just make sure there's no final questions coming in. Okay. Vicky, the video of the class will go up a few minutes after we close. What I've been doing is trying to do some simple edits right after we finish, so that way the video is immediately available. So even if you miss class, the video should be up. Our latest tonight. The New Lord's Prayer. O divine and wondrous Spirit, O everlasting Lord of hosts, send forth now through me thy great and lasting power. Allow me, Almighty God, the lasting privilege of radiating to all the world thy great love, so that those who suffer may be given the power and energy to rise above their weaknesses. Almighty God, in great humility do I ask you to send forth your power, to give to me this great lasting privilege of being a channel, so that my suffering brothers may be helped and guided and healed and lifted into thy light, so that they who know not may look up and in doing so receive to their higher selves your divine counsel. Almighty God, this day have you granted me a divine privilege. I ask you now to give to me the strength so that never again will I turn from my inner vision of you. Oh, great peace, great peace, great peace. In praise of your greatness, O God, doth my soul sing. Grant it energy to sing on forever and forever. All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for your kind attention and attendance.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A wonderful week, and we will see you next time.